The evening air in Columbus was thick with the scent of blooming lilacs as I settled into my usual routine. The clock on the wall ticked steadily, a reminder of the predictability that had enveloped my life. My husband, Mark, was away on yet another business trip, leaving me to navigate the quiet of our home alone. I poured myself a glass of Merlot and sank into the familiar embrace of the living room couch, surrounded by the clutter that had accumulated over years, framed photographs of our children, mismatched coasters from various coffee shops, and a stack of magazines I never seemed to read. I often found comfort in this solitude. It allowed me to slip into a rhythm where I could forget about the rest of the world. Yet tonight, an unsettling loneliness crept in. The walls felt closer than usual, and silence loomed like an unwanted guest. My thoughts wandered to Mark's absence, and I couldn't shake the feeling that our marriage had become a series of predictable motions: dinner at 6, television at 8, and sleep by 10. Each day blurred into the next without any spark or excitement. As I swirled the wine in my glass, I caught sight of my reflection in the window. The woman staring back seemed foreign. Her eyes held a mixture of weariness and longing that made me uncomfortable. What had happened to me? Where had my sense of adventure gone? The questions hung heavy in the air as I took another sip. Just then, a soft knock echoed through the stillness. My heart skipped, a sudden jolt that pulled me from my reverie. Who could it be at this hour? I hesitated for a moment, glancing at the door as if it might reveal some profound answer to my inner turmoil. Another knock followed, more insistent this time. Curiosity got the better of me. Perhaps it was just Jake from next door. He often stopped by for casual chats or to borrow tools from Mark. With a quick breath to steady myself, I opened the door. Jake stood there with his easy smile and tousled hair that always seemed perfectly imperfect. He wore his usual casual attire, a faded t-shirt and jeans, and held a bottle of wine in one hand. "Hey there. Thought you might want some company," he said cheerfully. I felt an unexpected flutter in my stomach at his presence but quickly masked it with a smile. "Sure. Come on in." As he stepped over the threshold, I shut the door behind him and felt an odd sense of warmth spread through me, something unfamiliar yet inviting. We settled on opposite ends of the couch as he uncorked the wine with practiced ease. The sound filled the room like an unspoken promise as he poured us each a glass. We exchanged small talk about neighborhood happenings, the recent block party and upcoming community events, while laughter bubbled up between us like old friends reconnecting after years apart. But beneath that laughter lay an undercurrent I couldn't ignore. Something about being here with him felt dangerously exhilarating. Jake's charm was disarming. He spoke animatedly about his work at the local hardware store while I listened intently, finding solace in his enthusiasm. With each sip of wine, my walls began to crumble just a little more until we were sharing stories about our lives, his adventures growing up in Ohio and my own tales from raising kids who were now teenagers off chasing their dreams elsewhere. Yet with every shared laugh came a pang of guilt laced with fear, the kind that whispered warnings about loyalty and commitment deep within me. What was happening here? Why did it feel so easy to connect with him while feeling so distant from Mark? As if sensing my inner conflict, Jake leaned forward slightly, his voice dropping to a softer tone. "You know, sometimes life throws us curveballs when we least expect them." His words hung in the air between us like an unspoken truth that resonated all too well within me. A part of me wanted to push back against this connection, to remind myself that this was just harmless companionship, but another part craved more than what my marriage currently offered. I took another sip from my glass as we continued talking. Time slipped away unnoticed until darkness enveloped us outside. The streetlights flickered on one by one through our window while shadows danced across our faces. Then came another unexpected twist. A sudden power outage plunged us into darkness just as Jake was recounting a funny story about his childhood dog chasing after squirrels in their backyard. "Looks like we're stuck here for now," he said lightly, chuckling even though we both knew it wasn't really funny at all. I fumbled for my phone but realized it wouldn't help much without service or light illuminating our surroundings anyway. Instead, we both settled into silence for what felt like an eternity before Jake spoke again. "Want to light some candles?" he suggested gently after what seemed like ages spent merely listening to our breathing echoing around us. "Sure," I replied quietly, not fully aware if it was truly agreement or merely compliance born out of uncertainty. As he moved toward where we kept candles stashed away for emergencies, how ironic those were now, I stayed seated on that couch feeling strangely vulnerable yet oddly liberated simultaneously. Perhaps this moment would lead somewhere unexpected after all. When Jake returned holding 2 lit candles casting flickering shadows across his face, and mine too, I couldn't help but feel drawn closer than before. Warmth radiated not just from flames but also between us. A magnetic pull difficult to ignore any longer despite lingering doubts whispering cautionary tales inside my head. We shared stories under candlelight while sipping wine until laughter faded into something deeper. A connection neither expected nor sought but found nonetheless amidst shared moments spent together during those hours lost without electricity or distractions beyond ourselves entirely. Then came another twist. Leaning forward almost instinctively towards each other's warmth amidst dim light surrounding us, I could no longer deny how much more than mere friendship lingered beneath surface-level conversation between us both. But just as quickly as those thoughts emerged came crashing realization, the weighty consequences looming ahead if either dared cross lines drawn long ago within confines established throughout years spent living predictably alongside someone else entirely. And so here we were, 2 souls tethered together by circumstance yet divided by choices made long before tonight's unexpected visit. The night stretched on endlessly while uncertainty lingered heavily around us both, until finally one question arose silently hanging unanswered between breaths taken separately yet intertwined somehow nonetheless. What would happen next? The warmth of Jake's presence lingered in the air, a stark contrast to the cool evening that surrounded us. I sat on the couch, my heart racing as I replayed our laughter and the way he looked at me, as if I were something precious. The bottle of wine lay empty on the coffee table, a testament to the evening's unexpected intimacy. "Ellie," he had said, his voice low and inviting, "you have such a beautiful smile." The compliment hung in the air, filling the room with an energy I hadn't felt in years. Each word felt like a thread weaving us closer together, binding me to this moment and pulling me away from my predictable life. But guilt gnawed at me like a persistent whisper. I glanced at the clock on the wall. It was late. My husband was miles away, wrapped up in work and business dinners while I sat here with Jake. The thought of him made my stomach twist. He had always been dependable but had become more of a fixture in my life than a partner. "Want to watch something?" Jake asked, his eyes sparkling with mischief. "Sure," I replied, trying to keep my tone light despite the storm brewing inside me. As we flipped through channels, our knees brushed against each other, a small touch that sent shivers down my spine. The flickering light from the television cast shadows across his face, highlighting his features in an almost ethereal glow. For a moment, everything else faded away, the mundane chores of daily life and the responsibilities waiting for me. "What do you think about all this?" he asked suddenly, gesturing vaguely around us. I hesitated before answering. "I think it's nice to forget for a little while." He nodded thoughtfully, his gaze piercing through my facade. "Sometimes we need that escape." The conversation shifted from trivial matters to deeper topics, our dreams, regrets, and what we wanted out of life. With each shared secret, our connection deepened further until it felt palpable between us. "I don't want this night to end," Jake said softly after a particularly poignant story about his childhood. "Neither do I admitted before I knew what was happening. And then it happened, we kissed. It was tentative at first but quickly grew into something more urgent as if we both understood that this moment could never be repeated. A rush of emotions flooded over me, excitement mingled with fear, and for those fleeting seconds, everything felt right. But as quickly as it began, it ended when he pulled back slightly to look into my eyes. "I should go," he said reluctantly. The words struck me like cold water splashed against skin. Reality came rushing back in full force. "Yeah, maybe you should." My voice wavered as uncertainty filled the space between us. Jake stood up slowly and gathered his jacket from where it had fallen on the chair earlier. "Ellie," he paused as if searching for words that wouldn't come easily. "I know," I replied softly. "This isn't who we are." He nodded solemnly but didn't move toward the door just yet. Instead, he lingered for a moment longer as if hoping one of us would say something profound enough to change everything. "Take care of yourself," he finally said before stepping out into the night. The door clicked shut behind him with an unsettling finality that echoed through my home, a home now filled with silence and unresolved emotions swirling around like autumn leaves caught in a gust of wind. I sat back down on the couch, staring blankly at nothing in particular while thoughts raced through my mind like wildfire. What did this mean? Was it just a momentary lapse? Or had we crossed an invisible line into uncharted territory? My phone buzzed on the table beside me, my husband checking in from another city far away. As I picked it up and answered with feigned cheerfulness, guilt washed over me anew like waves crashing against rocks on a stormy shore. "How's everything going?" he asked casually. "Good," I replied too quickly. "Just relaxing at home." "Good to hear," he said without any hint of suspicion or concern about what might really be happening behind our closed doors, or rather mine now that he was gone. After hanging up, I found myself staring out into the darkened street where Jake had just left moments ago, the warmth of his presence still lingering like an aftertaste on my lips despite how wrong everything felt now. The night stretched out ahead of me filled with unanswered questions and uncertainty about what tomorrow might bring. A familiar sense of loneliness washed over me once more as reality settled back into its predictable rhythm around me. In those quiet hours before sleep found me again amidst swirling thoughts about choices made and paths not taken, I realized this wasn't just about Jake anymore. It was about finding myself again amidst all these tangled emotions threatening to pull me under if I let them take control completely. As dawn broke over Columbus casting soft rays through my window illuminating all corners of my cluttered living room, it became clear, whatever happened next would require courage. An understanding that facing truths wasn't easy but necessary if freedom awaited beyond those unlocked doors beckoning silently toward new beginnings. The sun hung low in the sky, casting a warm glow over the local farmers' market as I wandered through the vibrant stalls. The scent of fresh produce mingled with the earthy aroma of baked goods, creating a comforting atmosphere that felt like a balm for my restless spirit. Yet, amidst the bustle of families and friends enjoying their Saturday morning, I couldn't shake the weight of my thoughts. Jake had been on my mind since our last encounter. Our lips met in that moment of vulnerability, igniting feelings I hadn't dared to explore before. Now, every corner of my life felt tinged with his presence, and I was struggling to reconcile that with my marriage. My husband was still away on his business trip, and while I should have felt relief in his absence, it only amplified my loneliness. I picked up a basket filled with ripe tomatoes and fresh basil, trying to focus on the task at hand. Cooking had always been a source of joy for me. It was a ritual that connected me to memories of family dinners and laughter echoing through our home. But today, as I inspected each vegetable for quality, images of Jake's smile invaded my mind, his easy laughter and the way he listened so intently when I spoke. "Ellie. Over here." A familiar voice broke through my reverie. It was Sarah, an old friend from high school who had moved back to Columbus recently. She waved enthusiastically from across the path, her arms laden with bags filled with local goods. "Hey. It's been ages," I replied, forcing a smile as I approached her. We embraced warmly before she held up her bounty triumphantly. "Look at these. Fresh eggs and some homemade jams." You have to try this peach one, it's divine. As we chatted about life and caught up on each other's news, I felt a flicker of normalcy return. Sarah had always been someone who could lift my spirits with her infectious energy. Yet even as we laughed together, there was an undercurrent of tension within me, like trying to hold water in cupped hands. "Are you still cooking for your husband?" she asked casually as we strolled past a stall selling artisanal bread. "Yes," I replied hesitantly. "He's away right now for work." "Oh right. How long is he gone this time?" "Another week or so," I answered absently as we paused to admire a display of colorful flowers. My thoughts drifted again to Jake, the way his eyes sparkled when he talked about his interests and how easy it felt just being near him. Sarah must have sensed my distraction because she leaned in closer and lowered her voice conspiratorially. "You know, Ellie, you deserve happiness too. If something isn't working in your marriage." I felt heat rise in my cheeks at her implication. "It's complicated," I murmured, avoiding her gaze. "Complicated or not," she pressed gently but firmly, "you need to take care of yourself first." Her words struck deep. They echoed what had been swirling around in my own mind since Jake first crossed that threshold into my home. As we continued walking through the market together, part of me longed to confide everything, the loneliness that gnawed at me and how Jake made me feel alive again, but another part feared judgment or misunderstanding. As we moved toward the exit where vendors packed up their stalls for the day, a sudden commotion drew our attention. A child squealed with delight as they chased after a puppy that had broken free from its owner's grasp. Laughter erupted around us as people stepped aside to make way for the playful scene unfolding before us. In that moment of innocence and joy amidst adults lost in their own lives, clarity washed over me like sunlight piercing through clouds. This was what I craved, an unrestrained connection without fear or pretense. "Ellie?" Sarah's voice pulled me back from my thoughts once more. "Yes? You okay? You seem distant." "I'm fine," I said too quickly but softened by her concern. "Just thinking." As she nodded knowingly but didn't press further for details, something shifted within me, a realization that perhaps it was time to confront these feelings rather than hide from them. After saying goodbye to Sarah and promising to catch up soon over coffee at our favorite cafe, I made my way home feeling lighter yet burdened by new questions. What did I truly want? And how could I face Jake again without addressing what lay beneath our connection? The door swung open easily under my touch when I returned home. It felt almost symbolic, a threshold between two worlds, one filled with safety yet stagnation and another pulsing with possibility but fraught with uncertainty. I set down the basket on the kitchen counter and glanced out the window into our backyard where shadows danced playfully among the trees swaying softly in the breeze. It all seemed so serene compared to the storm brewing inside me, a tempest fueled by desire and fear alike. Suddenly there came a knock at the door, a sound both familiar yet jarring against this backdrop of introspection. My heart raced unexpectedly. Could it be Jake? The thought sent shivers down my spine, both thrilling and terrifying all at once. I hesitated for just a moment before opening it fully. There stood Jake looking handsome yet slightly disheveled from what must have been an early morning run or some outdoor activity. His shirt clung lightly against him as if he'd just come from an adventure. "Hey," he greeted softly but earnestly, those warm brown eyes locked onto mine sending butterflies fluttering wildly within me once more. "Hi," was all I managed in response as he stepped over threshold into my space uninvited yet welcomed all at once, a choice made consciously despite everything else swirling around us like leaves caught up in autumn winds. "I thought maybe you'd be here," he said casually while glancing around before settling back on me again, his expression shifting slightly as if sensing something deeper than mere pleasantries exchanged between neighbors now lingered heavily between us both. Before either one of us could break this fragile silence hanging thickly in air like fog enveloping everything, it happened again, instinctively drawn together like magnets forging connections far beyond mere physicality. Our lips met gently yet fervently, not merely seeking solace but something more profound, a hunger unfulfilled until now ignited fiercely within us, both kindling possibilities previously unexplored. And just like that, everything shifted once more, leaving behind echoes reverberating throughout every fiber woven into fabric holding together lives lived thus far. The night wrapped around us like a blanket, the storm outside echoing the turmoil brewing within me. Jake and I sat in the living room, our earlier laughter now replaced with a comfortable silence, punctuated only by the rhythmic patter of rain against the windows. The power had gone out, plunging the house into darkness, but in that moment, I felt more alive than I had in years. As we talked about everything and nothing, our childhoods, favorite movies, and dreams left unfulfilled, the intimacy between us deepened. Each shared story felt like an unveiling, layers of ourselves peeling away in the dim light of my living room. I found myself leaning closer to him, his presence was magnetic, drawing me in despite my better judgment. "Do you ever wonder if we're meant for more than what we have?" Jake asked suddenly, his voice low and contemplative. His question hung in the air like a heavy fog. Did he mean more than just this moment? More than our casual neighborly connection? I wanted to respond honestly but hesitated. My heart raced as I considered my marriage, a predictable existence filled with routine and complacency. "I think about it sometimes," I admitted softly, looking down at my hands. "But change is scary." "Sometimes it's scarier to stay stuck," he replied gently. "You deserve to feel alive again." The sincerity in his voice stirred something within me, a desire for connection that had long been dormant. As if sensing my internal struggle, he reached out and took my hand in his. The warmth of his touch sent shivers up my spine. In that moment of vulnerability, I leaned into him, our foreheads touching as we breathed each other in. It felt so right yet so wrong at the same time, an exhilarating contradiction that left me dizzy with uncertainty. And then it happened again. Our lips met softly at first but quickly deepened into something more urgent, a culmination of all the longing I had suppressed for too long. We spent the night together on that couch, wrapped up in each other's warmth while the storm raged outside. Morning light filtered through the window as I stirred awake to find Jake still beside me, his expression peaceful in sleep. A wave of panic washed over me as reality crashed back in. What had we done? The weight of our choices pressed heavily on my chest. I slipped out from under his arm carefully not to disturb him and made my way to the kitchen. The scent of coffee brewing filled the air as I tried to gather my thoughts amid the chaos swirling inside me. My phone buzzed from where I had left it on the counter. My husband's name flashing across the screen jolted me back to reality. I stared at it for a moment before picking it up with trembling hands. "Hey," he said cheerfully when I answered. "Just checking in. How are you?" "Fine," I managed to reply, forcing a smile even though he couldn't see me. "How's your week been?" "Miss you." The guilt threatened to suffocate me as he spoke about mundane things, the weather at his conference and plans for dinner when he returned home later this week. Each word felt like a dagger piercing through my heart because here was this man who loved me despite my growing discontentment. "I miss you too," I said automatically, wishing desperately that those words could hold true again one day. As we hung up after a brief conversation filled with pleasantries, reality settled heavily around me like a shroud. I had crossed a line with Jake that couldn't be uncrossed. What did this mean for my marriage? For Jake? When I turned back toward the living room, Jake was awake now. His eyes were searching mine with an intensity that made my heart race anew. "Good morning," he said softly as he sat up against the couch cushions. "Morning." My voice barely rose above a whisper as shame flooded through me. "What's wrong?" His brow furrowed slightly as he sensed my turmoil. I took a deep breath before speaking, every word felt like walking on thin ice ready to crack beneath me. My husband called." Jake's expression shifted from concern to something unreadable, a mix of understanding and disappointment perhaps. And? He's extending his trip. The admission hung between us like an unspoken question. What would happen next? Jake ran a hand through his hair and sighed deeply before meeting my gaze again. So what does that mean for us? I opened my mouth but no words came out. Instead, confusion washed over me once more. Did it mean anything? Should it? I don't want to complicate things further, I finally managed after what felt like an eternity of silence. But you're already here, Jake replied gently yet firmly, a reminder of how far we'd already gone together despite everything else weighing us down. The morning sun bathed us both in soft light while shadows danced around corners, remnants of last night still lingering thickly between us even amidst clarity slowly creeping back into focus around our tangled emotions. Ellie, he started but paused when he caught sight of something behind me, a flicker of movement outside drawing both our attention instantly away from what lay ahead inside these walls. A figure stood at my front door, tall and familiar, but one who wasn't supposed to be here yet. My heart dropped as recognition dawned. Dread pooled low within me, threatening all semblance of calmness I'd tried so hard to maintain moments ago. What would happen next? Would this unexpected visitor unravel everything I'd begun exploring within myself? The knock at the door sent a shiver down my spine, a mixture of dread and anticipation. I stood frozen, staring at the door as if it might magically answer my unspoken questions. My heart raced, caught in a whirlwind of emotions. Could it really be Jake again? Or was it someone else, someone who would remind me of the life I had been trying to escape? Taking a deep breath, I walked toward the door, each step heavy with uncertainty. I had just begun to process what had happened between us, the warmth of his kiss still lingering on my lips. The memory of our stolen moments filled my mind, those fleeting glances and quiet confessions that had ignited something dormant within me. With trembling hands, I opened the door. There stood Jake, looking slightly disheveled yet undeniably charming. His eyes sparkled with mischief and warmth, as if he carried a secret meant only for me. "Hey," he said softly, his voice low and inviting. "I hope I'm not interrupting anything." "Not at all," I managed to reply, though my heart was racing. "Just thinking." He stepped inside without waiting for an invitation. The door clicked shut behind him, sealing us in this moment together once more. My mind raced with questions about what this meant for both of us. Jake glanced around my living room before settling his gaze on me again. "You look different," he remarked with a hint of a smile. "Different how?" I asked, tilting my head slightly. "More alive," he replied, stepping closer as if to bridge the distance created by our earlier hesitations. I felt heat rise in my cheeks at his compliment but quickly pushed it aside. This wasn't about appearances, it was about choices and consequences, about what lay beneath the surface of our connection. "I've been thinking," I said cautiously, unsure how to articulate the whirlwind of thoughts swirling in my head. "About?" He leaned against the wall casually, but his eyes were serious now. "My marriage," I confessed softly, feeling vulnerable under his scrutiny. "About what it means to be content." His expression shifted slightly, concern flickered across his face. "Ellie." Before he could finish his thought, my phone rang from across the room like an unwelcome intruder into our fragile moment. The sound shattered the intimacy we'd built so quickly. Reluctantly, I turned away from him to grab it from the table. It was Tom, my husband, his voice crackling through the line brought me crashing back into reality. "Hey. Just wanted to let you know that my trip is extended," he said cheerfully enough but oblivious to the tension that gripped my heart. "Oh?" My voice came out softer than intended as confusion flooded me. "Yeah. A few more days here than planned, there's a big project coming up." His excitement felt distant now as Jake watched me closely from across the room. "Okay, that's fine." My words were automatic, they didn't feel like mine anymore. I'll call you later," Tom chirped before hanging up abruptly as if oblivious to everything happening on my end of the line. I lowered my phone slowly and turned back toward Jake. His expression mirrored mine, caught between relief and disappointment at this unexpected turn of events. "So, more time alone then?" he asked gently. "Yes." The word hung in the air thick with potential and uncertainty all at once. Jake took a step closer again, filling space with an electric tension that both excited and terrified me. "What do you want to do with that time?" The question loomed large between us like an open door beckoning me forward into uncharted territory, or perhaps deeper into chaos. "I don't know," I admitted finally, feeling raw and exposed under his gaze yet unwilling to retreat into shadows anymore. He reached out tentatively as if gauging my response before taking another step closer until we were nearly touching, a breath apart in this small universe we'd created together within these walls. Then came another knock, this one more insistent than before, shattering our moment once again like glass shattering against stone. Jake's brow furrowed slightly as he pulled back instinctively while I turned toward the door once more with confusion clouding my mind anew. Who could be visiting now? "I'll get it," I said quickly, even though every instinct screamed for me not to open that door again so soon after Tom's call. It felt like inviting chaos back into an already tumultuous situation. As I opened it cautiously this time, revealing an unexpected face standing there, a neighbor from down the street who often stopped by for casual chats or baked goods, my stomach dropped further into uncertainty. "Hi, Ellie." "Sorry to bother you," she exclaimed brightly but seemed taken aback by Jake's presence behind me in what must have looked like an intimate scene frozen mid-action. "Oh." Words escaped me as awkwardness enveloped us all, the air thickening with unspoken implications hanging over our heads like storm clouds ready to burst forth rain upon unsuspecting ground below them. "Just wanted to drop off some cookies," she continued cheerfully while holding out a plate adorned with treats she'd clearly made herself. A gesture meant simply enough yet laden now with complications that felt far heavier than sugar-coated pastries should ever carry between neighbors sharing walls together in this quaint suburb where everyone knew everyone else's business far too well for comfort sometimes. "Thanks," was all I could manage before she glanced between Jake and myself curiously, as if searching for clues about what might be happening here beyond just shared cookies on a Tuesday afternoon when life should remain predictable instead. With a hasty goodbye and promises for future chats exchanged awkwardly amidst lingering glances shot back toward Jake, the visitor departed, leaving behind echoes of her cheerful demeanor still ringing faintly through closed doors now separating us from prying eyes outside. As silence fell upon us again after her departure, I turned back toward Jake, who stood motionless, still processing everything unfolding around us while grappling silently, perhaps even harder than myself, with choices looming ahead demanding attention whether we liked them or not. "What do we do now?" he asked, finally breaking through tension-filled silence hanging heavily between us both. A question echoing deeper than mere words could convey amidst tangled emotions swirling around hearts searching desperately for clarity amidst chaos surrounding them. I didn't have answers, not yet anyway, but something told me whatever path lay ahead would lead nowhere near where either one of us thought we'd end up when all this began. The festival was alive with color and sound, a vibrant tapestry of laughter, music, and the tantalizing aroma of food wafting through the air. I wandered through the crowd, my heart racing as I navigated the throngs of people. The excitement was palpable, yet an undercurrent of anxiety buzzed beneath my skin. I had come to embrace this moment of community, to step outside the confines of my home, but Jake's presence loomed large in my mind. As I turned a corner near a booth selling handmade jewelry, I spotted him. Jake stood by a stall adorned with twinkling lights, his hair tousled by the gentle breeze. He was engaged in conversation with a vendor, laughter spilling from his lips like music. My breath caught in my throat. He radiated warmth and charm that drew me in despite the chaos around us. I hesitated for just a moment before stepping closer, caught between desire and caution. Memories of our shared moments flooded back, our late-night talks, the stolen kisses that ignited something deep within me. The thrill of those memories was intoxicating but also terrifying. Ellie. His voice cut through the noise as he caught sight of me. A smile broke across his face, brightening an already beautiful day. Hey, I managed to respond, forcing a smile despite my racing heart. He stepped away from the stall and approached me with an ease that felt both familiar and foreign. What brings you here? He asked, his eyes sparkling with genuine interest. I thought I'd check it out, I replied, attempting to sound casual while fighting back the tide of emotions rising within me. Good idea. He gestured toward a nearby food truck offering gourmet tacos. You have to try these, they're amazing. As we walked together toward the truck, I couldn't shake off the feeling that this encounter was more than just a casual meeting at a festival. There was an electric tension between us that hadn't dulled since our last encounter. We ordered our food and found a quiet spot away from the crowd. Sitting on a bench beneath a canopy of colorful banners fluttering in the breeze felt like being in our own little world. The laughter and chatter faded into background noise as we began talking about everything and nothing, our lives, our dreams, what brought us joy. But then he leaned closer as if sharing a secret. I've missed you, he said softly. The weight of those words hung heavily between us. I've missed you too, I admitted before I could stop myself. For a moment, we were caught in each other's gaze, the world around us fading further into insignificance as old feelings surged back to life. It felt like stepping into forbidden territory again, exhilarating yet fraught with danger. Ellie, he began tentatively, can we talk about what happened? About us? The question hung heavy in the air like unspoken promises waiting to be fulfilled. My heart raced as I considered how to respond. This wasn't just about desire anymore, it was about choices that would ripple through both our lives. I don't know if we should, my voice trailed off as uncertainty crept back in, a reminder of all that was at stake. But Jake's expression shifted slightly, there was determination behind those warm eyes now. We can't ignore it forever, he pressed gently but firmly. Just then, laughter erupted nearby as children chased each other through a fountain splashing water everywhere, a stark reminder of innocence amidst our tangled emotions. It made me think about what my life had become, predictable yet unfulfilling, filled with routine but lacking passion. I have to be honest, I started slowly, searching for words that wouldn't betray either one of us too harshly. I'm confused about everything. Jake nodded thoughtfully, there was understanding there rather than impatience or frustration. So am I, he admitted quietly before taking another bite of his taco. The honesty between us felt refreshing yet daunting at the same time, a fragile thread connecting two people standing at crossroads they never intended to reach together. In that momentary silence filled only by distant music and laughter from festival-goers around us came clarity. This wasn't just about physical attraction or fleeting moments anymore. It was about understanding what truly mattered moving forward amidst uncertainty looming large over both our lives. What do you want? Jake asked suddenly after swallowing his bite, his gaze unwavering as it locked onto mine with intensity that sent shivers down my spine. My voice faltered again as panic washed over me like cold water. I wanted so many things, freedom from loneliness wrapped tightly around my heart, clarity amidst confusion clouding my judgment, connection without fear holding me back from fully embracing life again. But did any answer exist without consequences? Before I could speak again, before clarity could settle into resolve, an unexpected figure appeared at the edge of our little sanctuary, Sarah, one of my closest friends from cooking class who had been looking for me all day long amidst festivities unfolding around us. There you are, she exclaimed brightly while glancing between Jake and me curiously before her smile faded slightly upon sensing tension hanging thickly between us both now. The moment interrupted before anything could progress further into deeper territory where decisions awaited reckoning beyond mere words exchanged casually over tacos. Hey! Just enjoying some food, I replied hastily while trying not to glance back at Jake, who remained silent beside me, a storm brewing beneath calm waters threatening to break free any second now. Sarah's eyes darted between us again before she continued blithely, unaware, "You should come see this dance group performing. They're amazing." As she spoke animatedly about dancers twirling gracefully on stage nearby, I felt something shift within me, a flicker reminding me how quickly life could change course unexpectedly even when least prepared for it. Jake's gaze remained locked onto mine though, an unspoken understanding passing silently between two souls teetering on edges ready to leap forward or retreat back depending on choices made next. And just like that, the door stood ajar once more, inviting exploration beyond comfortable boundaries drawn tight around hearts yearning for something more. The festival buzzed around me, a vibrant celebration of community and life. Colorful stalls lined the park, laughter mingling with the scent of fried dough and fresh lemonade. Yet, beneath the surface of this joyous atmosphere, I felt a storm brewing within me. Jake's presence next to me was electric, a reminder of all that had unfolded between us. The weight of my choices pressed down like an anchor. "Ellie," he said softly, breaking through the noise around us. "Are you okay?" I nodded, though my heart raced. The festival lights twinkled above us, but all I could see was the path ahead, two diverging roads marked by uncertainty and fear. "Just thinking," I replied, forcing a smile that didn't quite reach my eyes. "About what?" His gaze bore into mine with an intensity that felt both comforting and terrifying. "About everything." I gestured vaguely, encompassing the fairgrounds, our lives, and the tangled web we'd woven together. "I don't know where this is going." Jake stepped closer, lowering his voice as if afraid someone might overhear our private exchange amidst the crowd. "I understand. It's complicated." He paused for a moment before continuing. "But we can figure it out together." Together. That word echoed in my mind like a siren call. But what did it really mean? I had my husband to consider, a man who provided stability in my life but whose absence left me feeling more alone than ever. "I don't want to hurt anyone," I said finally, feeling the heat rise in my cheeks. "Neither do I." His expression softened as he glanced around us at families enjoying their time together. "But what about you? Don't you deserve happiness?" His question lingered in the air between us like an uninvited guest. My thoughts raced back to my husband, his late nights at work and distant demeanor when he was home. Had he noticed how lost I felt? Did he care enough to try? As if sensing my turmoil, Jake reached out and took my hand gently in his, a simple gesture that sent shivers down my spine. "Ellie," he said earnestly, "you can choose your own path." I looked down at our intertwined fingers and felt a rush of warmth mixed with guilt. The laughter around us faded into white noise as I wrestled with conflicting emotions, the thrill of connection against the backdrop of loyalty. "Let's talk somewhere quieter," Jake suggested after a moment of silence stretched between us like an elastic band ready to snap. I hesitated but nodded. Curiosity pulled me forward despite my better judgment. We made our way through throngs of festival-goers until we found a secluded bench under a large oak tree, a small oasis amid the chaos. Jake sat beside me, still holding on to my hand as if afraid to let go. "What do you want?" he asked softly. The question hung heavily in the air, the answer eluded me like smoke slipping through fingers. What did I want? A part of me longed for adventure and passion, another clung desperately to familiarity and security. "I don't know," I admitted reluctantly, staring at our hands joined together, a lifeline tethering me to something new yet terrifying. He squeezed my hand gently as if urging me to dig deeper into myself. "You have to think about what makes you happy, not just what feels safe." His words struck a chord deep within me. They resonated with truths I had buried beneath layers of routine and obligation. Memories flooded back, moments shared with Jake that ignited sparks within me I thought had long been extinguished. Suddenly, Sarah appeared at the edge of our secluded spot, a friend from cooking class with her bright smile illuminating her face like sunshine breaking through clouds. "There you are. I've been looking everywhere for you," she exclaimed cheerfully before her gaze shifted between Jake and me, curiosity dancing in her eyes. "Hey Sarah," I greeted awkwardly as Jake released my hand slowly. "What are you two up to?" she asked innocently but with an underlying tone that suggested she sensed something deeper between us. "Just talking," Jake replied smoothly while shooting me a glance filled with unspoken words. Sarah plopped down beside us without hesitation, her enthusiasm palpable as she launched into stories about her kids' antics at the festival, her laughter infectious even amidst the tension swirling around us. As she spoke animatedly about cotton candy disasters and carnival games gone wrong, part of me appreciated her interruption. It provided much-needed distraction from the weighty conversation hanging over us like dark clouds threatening rain. But then Sarah mentioned something surprising. "Did you hear about Jake's past? Apparently, he used to travel quite a bit for work before moving here." My heart sank slightly at her revelation. It felt like another layer peeling away from our fragile connection, revealing uncertainties hidden beneath charm and charisma. "What kind of work?" I asked casually while trying not to show too much interest or concern over details that could complicate things further. "Oh, something corporate," Sarah replied dismissively before turning back towards her own stories again without elaborating further on Jake's past life or why it mattered now. But it lingered in my mind, the implications swirling around unanswered questions. Why had he chosen this quiet suburb? What had driven him away from his previous life? As Sarah continued talking animatedly about food stalls nearby offering samples galore, my thoughts drifted back toward Jake's intense gaze earlier today, the way his presence ignited something inside me that felt both exhilarating yet dangerous all at once. Suddenly realizing how far removed we were from reality made everything seem surreal. Laughter faded into muffled echoes while uncertainty loomed larger than ever before, as if standing on an edge overlooking deep waters unknown. After what felt like hours passed under that oak tree surrounded by laughter fading into distance, I turned toward Jake again, searching for answers hidden behind those expressive eyes filled with secrets waiting patiently for revelation. "I need some air." The words escaped before fully processing their meaning, my voice shaky yet resolute as urgency surged beneath skin, craving clarity amidst confusion thickening like fog around each breath taken. Without waiting for response, I stood abruptly, leaving behind warmth radiating from shared moments spent together. And just outside festival grounds, I inhaled deeply, drawing strength from crisp autumn air surrounding, every breath grounding while reminding myself choices made could alter paths forevermore. Yet deep inside, I knew one truth remained unchanged: stepping beyond comfort zones led toward unknown futures ripe with possibility, but also risk. As night began falling over Columbus, painting skies dark blue dotted by stars sparkling above, I took one last glance back toward festival lights illuminating faces filled joy. Unaware darkness loomed just beyond edges where shadows danced silently, waiting. What awaited next would change everything. The vibrant festival lights flickered behind me, a stark contrast to the uncertainty swirling within. I took a deep breath, my heart racing as I approached the familiar path back to my house. Each step felt heavier than the last, weighed down by the choices I had made and those still looming ahead. Jake was waiting for me, and with him came the echoes of laughter and connection that had been missing from my life for far too long. As I entered my home, the door creaked softly behind me, sealing off the outside world. The air was thick with unspoken words and unresolved feelings. I glanced around at the cluttered space that had once felt so comforting, now transformed into a battleground of emotions. Every corner held memories of routines I had grown accustomed to, yet they felt suffocating now. "Ellie," Jake's voice called softly from the living room. "Are you okay?" I hesitated before answering. Yeah, just processing. He stepped into view, his expression a mix of concern and understanding. The warmth in his gaze drew me in, igniting something deep within that I thought had long since faded. But with it came a rush of guilt. My husband's absence loomed large in my mind like an unwelcome guest. "Do you want to talk?" Jake asked gently. I nodded slowly, unsure where to begin. "I didn't expect to see you here." "I know," he replied, stepping closer. "But after everything, I needed to check on you." The weight of his presence enveloped me as we sat together on the couch, silence stretching between us like an unbroken thread. My thoughts raced as I struggled to articulate what I was feeling: confusion, fear, longing, all tangled together. "I've been thinking a lot about us," I finally said, breaking the silence. "About what this all means." Jake leaned forward slightly, his eyes searching mine for answers that felt elusive even to me. And my voice faltered as doubt crept in again. "I don't want to hurt anyone." He sighed heavily, running a hand through his hair in frustration. "Ellie, this isn't just about them, it's about you too." His words hung in the air like an uninvited truth that demanded acknowledgement. The reality of my situation crashed down upon me. It wasn't just my husband who would be affected by my choices but also Jake, who had become so integral to my journey of self-discovery. "I know," I whispered, feeling tears prick at my eyes. Jake reached out and brushed his thumb across my cheek, a gesture both tender and electrifying that sent shivers down my spine. In that moment, everything else faded away, it was just us. But then reality rushed back in like a tidal wave. "What are we doing?" I asked suddenly, pulling away from him as panic set in. He looked taken aback but remained steady. "Trying to figure this out together." "But can we?" The question hung between us, a fragile thread holding our fates intertwined yet precariously balanced on the edge of uncertainty. "Maybe we need to stop pretending," he suggested softly. Pretending. That word echoed through my mind like a haunting refrain as I considered what it meant for both of us moving forward. How long could we continue this dance without addressing the truth? The truth about our lives, the choices we made and those we were yet to confront. "Jake," my voice trembled as I faced him again. "What if this is all just a distraction? What if it doesn't lead anywhere?" His gaze never wavered. There was strength there that encouraged me even amidst my turmoil. "Then at least you'll know what you truly want." Those words struck deep within me, a challenge wrapped in vulnerability that forced me to confront myself head-on. Wasn't that what all this was really about? Finding clarity amidst chaos? "I don't want to lose what we have," I confessed quietly. His expression softened further as he reached for my hand again, this time more firmly grasping it between both of his own as if anchoring us against the storm brewing outside our walls. "Then let's not lose it," Jake replied earnestly. But could we hold on to something so fragile when everything around us threatened to unravel? Suddenly there was a loud knock at the door, a jarring interruption that shattered our moment and sent adrenaline coursing through me like fire igniting dry brushwood. My heart raced anew as confusion wrapped around me tighter than ever before. Who could be at my door at this hour? "Ellie?" A familiar voice called from outside, the unmistakable tone of my husband cutting through the tension like glass shattering on concrete. Panic surged through every fiber of my being. Dread settled heavily in my stomach as reality crashed down upon me once more. My husband had returned early from his trip without warning. "What do we do?" Jake whispered urgently as he glanced toward the door where shadows danced ominously beyond its frame. "I don't know." My voice cracked under pressure, the weight of decisions crashing over me like waves threatening to pull me under completely. "Ellie." My husband's voice rang out again, this time tinged with concern laced with confusion over why no one answered immediately after knocking repeatedly upon our door. In an instant decision forged by fear rather than clarity, I stood abruptly from the couch and rushed toward where he waited outside while glancing back one last time at Jake, whose expression mirrored mine. Uncertainty mixed with desperation swirling around us both, leaving no clear path forward. As I opened the door wide enough for him to step inside, I caught one last glimpse back at everything left unresolved before plunging headfirst into whatever awaited beyond this moment. And just like that, the unlocked door swung open wide, revealing consequences neither Jake nor myself could ever have anticipated.